This is the Rush Discush, where the discuss is Rush. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Rush Discush. This is another interview episode, and we have a great interview with a couple excellent bassists.
Really good. It was awesome.
Yeah. So these guys came recommended to us by Steve at Junk Drummer TV. Like I said, last interview episode, you guys haven't met Steve on our channel yet, but he's posted the videos that we made with him, the full-length videos, and go check those out on his channel. But man, Steve is just an awesome guy, and he's made music with these bassists before, and they're great friends. And so he's like, oh man, they would love to be on your show. Here they are. And man, we got way more than we bargained for.
Yeah, we feel like we hit the jackpot. It was great. Honestly, with all the guests that we've had on the show, we've hit the jackpot.
Yeah, it's been incredible.
It was so fun to talk to Jimmy and Adam and hear about Jimmy's experience as a national musician and Adam's experience working with the band of Rush. It's been really cool. It's an awesome conversation. We can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Yeah, so without further ado, here is our interview with Jimmy and Adam. All right, welcome everybody. We've got two more special guests with us. We've got James Lykens and Adam Jones here. Actually recommended to us from Steve, Junk Drummer TV on YouTube. And we're going to dive in just all about that bass today. So we'll go ahead and start off with some introductions. James, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do with the bass and all that good stuff.
That's old Jim. Old Jim.
Jim, I apologize.
Oh, don't even worry about it. Well, I like that old bass, and I've played her for a little while. And about myself, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say. I grew up in coal country, West Virginia. Raleigh County, West Virginia. Played in a lot of bands there for years. Played all growing up. Got to college. Played in a lot of rock bands, a lot of different stuff. Played with Steve for a long, long time in different outfits. Moved to Nashville Tennessee in 2010, and have been doing the Nashville thing ever since. Hasn't killed me yet. Still here. So that's pretty much my career summed up.
Awesome. And then before we dive into what you love about the bass or why you started playing bass, we'll hop over to Adam. Tell us a bit about yourself. Same thing as Jim.
Well, yeah. No, I'm a bass player as well. Have been since high school. And it's actually what led me to meeting Jimmy in college. And I moved here in 2008, Nashville, made music my living for a little while until I just couldn't, and got in on the industry side. And I've actually been working with Rush since around 2014.
That's awesome.
You just make so many people jealous.
Oh yeah, for sure. So what little detour with that little bomb there, what have you been doing with Rush?
Well, I came in right at the tail end of the Clockwork Angels tour.
Okay.
And I started working for their U.S. label at the time, Rounder, and Concord Music Group. And they put out all of their music videos. So everything from Rush in Rio onward has been through Rounder, Concord.
Oh,
and
awesome.
So I got hired in to Rounder, but it came from my dear friend and longtime employee of the band and Anthem and SRO, Andy Curran, and I've been, assisted in marketing releases and all that kind of stuff like that. But more recently, I edited and produced the Cinema Strangiato movies.
Oh, okay.
And artwork for that and whatever. And hopefully we get to do more of those. It's kind of up in the air right now, but I feel like there's enough demand. And, and I currently still work with Alex on his own website and his Envy of None stuff.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to circle back to that because I'm sure you've got some stories there. But the task at hand, lest we get too far sidetracked, when did both of you guys start playing bass, and what got you interested in becoming a musician in the first place? Adam, if you want to start us off with that.
I tried to play guitar first, and I couldn't wrap my mind around 6 strings and 5 fingers. So I saw bass as a way out, but also it was I really enjoyed the sound, just how mean it could sound, and the first song that made me want to play a bass was Red Barchetta. And still to this day, that's my favorite song ever to play. And that was it. I was hooked.
Awesome. Yeah, that's Red Barchetta. That'll get you. That's such a great bass song there. Jimmy, what was your start in the music world?
I've always just kind of been around it. It was always in the house, and my mom was a music teacher, and there are a lot of musicians in the family, and a lot of the neighbors were musicians and people in there. It's just kind of one of those things. I can't really remember a time where it wasn't around in one form or another, which most people can say that, but it was always in the house. There was always music playing or somebody playing it or something. Mm-hmm. Same. I played guitar whenever I was a kid, and like brass instruments, trumpet and all that kind of stuff. And then, but bass, I can pretty distinctly remember I was in early middle school, and I'd never really paid attention to the bass player much at all. Same as most people. I just never thought. But I remember walking. We were in Oak Hill, West Virginia, and there used to be a music store there. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was there for years and years and years. And I was walking by the window, and I just noticed it, like in the window, and I see this bass in there, and I'm like, oh, that's really neat. Wow, there's like something to it. I don't know what it was. So then I go, like my mom was a music teacher in their band room. I go crawling around, and up on the top, I find this case and open up the case, and it's this old, and like bass heads will know what it is. It was this old early 80s Squier Precision, like the good Squiers, 80s Precision, which I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know anything. Black.
Japanese.
Yeah, the good ones. Yeah. Black rosewood boards. A rosewood board only had 3 strings on it. But every now and again, I'd take it down and I'd sneak and I'd go play it. It was kind of like, bless my mom, she didn't really want me playing guitars and stuff all that much if I could help it. There'd been too many heathens and stuff that had gone and done that. I had to anyway. Eventually took it home, learned how to play into a lot of stuff like some Rush. It was for me. It was a lot.
You played a lot of sticks, didn't you?
There was quite a bit of sticks, actually. There was sticks, Queen, Skynyrd, Shoot, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, there was just something about it that I got kind of drawn into. I don't know if it was the frequency of it or if it's just the role of it. It kind of appealed to me. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to be like the guy sticking out in front or whatever necessarily. I don't really care. I like the quiet power it holds, I guess, you know. It's hitting the drums, you know, they're the things that make the booty shake, and you know you hold that power over them. You don't have to tell anybody about it. They don't know that you hold that power, you know. I guess it's a little sociopathic if you put it that way. I don't know. It's just nice. It's just, I don't know. It just always sort of appealed to me. And that's pretty much the end of it. I just always enjoyed it for many reasons.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. So, before we get into all the fun stuff, I want to set the foundation for these people like like myself. I dabble in bass a little bit, but I don't really completely understand the function of a bassist all the time. Like, I get some of the concept of it, but and so I just want you guys to kind of elaborate. How would you, to someone who has no idea about music, other than that they like to listen to it on the radio sometimes, how would you explain what the function of a bassist is, and maybe some basic terms that would help them kind of know what's going on?
To me, anyway, and if we're talking about like, you know, pop music or country music or rock or anything like that, you know, the stuff you hear on the radio, the bass is the link between the drummer and the singer. And it's the thing that supports that role and puts the two together. And then everything else, the guitars kind of sit on either side of that. You know, the vocal, you know, is of course the premier driving thing. The drums are driving the bus. You know, they're in charge of all of that. But the bass is what it's the glue that holds it all together. I don't know, Adam, maybe you could elaborate on that some.
Well, no, you said it really well. Like, it's the foundation. Without, it's why I've never been a big fan of the Doors, because there's no bass player. And like, there's it just feels empty, you know. And without a bass, you're not there to help accentuate that kick drum. You're not there to make asses shake, you know, and like that kind of thing. So, I mean, without it in popular music, it would be pretty vanilla, if you ask me.
There's been a couple that get away with it, but not many. Like Prince, but he was Prince. He could do it like on Kiss. There's no bass. It's Prince. He could do whatever he wants.
But that beat was pretty bassy. So like,
very good.
Yeah.
It's tricky. You'd think there's a bass in it. Sure.
Yeah. Having grown up, I'm a violinist, so having grown up in orchestra all my life, the consensus was, and this is string bass, but the same function. Oh, why would you ever want to be a bass player? You never get the melody. It's so boring. Like, oh my gosh, I'm a violin. Not me, but other violinists would be like, I play the melody. I'm so amazing. But then you drop that bass off and you're playing a section and everyone's like, oh, it sounds wrong. Why does it sound different? And it's like, that function of that bass, it just drops everything else. And so it is, you know, easy to just kind of, at least in my opinion, brush the bass off when really it would be nothing without the bass.
Oh yeah, I've always thought it's what is that, a homonym, you know, of the two S's and then BASE, but it's the same thing. If you don't have it, you're missing a foundation, and it doesn't feel right. The human ear is sort of drawn to low frequencies, and they do a thing, you know. I feel like it's part of the, you know, that whole thing. I feel like every musician knows what you're talking about, you know, where you can go into that other place and you go into that other space and you can kind of lose yourself in it. I feel like frequency has as much to do with it as what a melody is or what a thing is. It's just the frequency of the thing, and without a low end, it'd be missing a lot. As far as bass terms, geez, I don't know. I guess low. Root.
You
Boomy.
have to say root.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, because I mean, the only thing that ever comes to mind is always the root note, and I always wonder is like if you're coming up with a bass line, well, one, how do you even approach that, and then two, is it just centering around whatever that root note is, or I guess. As bassists, how do you approach writing a bass line that's interesting, or does interesting not matter as much, depending on the song?
What do you
Well,
think?
personally, I think I'm not. When I get the opportunity to quote unquote write a part, which is pretty rare, when I do, it's not so much of like I want to do this to make it interesting. Your first role is to serve the song, and then secondly, if you want to do something cool to make yourself happy, like while still doing that, then all the better. I mean, that took me a long time to realize that because I've always been a very excitable player, but and I get carried away sometimes. But I think that's the best I've got, Jim.
No, yeah, I guess I'd carry on that. Especially in a town like Nashville, Tennessee, there are some of the best musicians. As far as guitar players, drummers, bass players, pedal steel players, fiddle players, they're some of the best in the world. Like you won't find any better. And part of what makes them so good isn't the facility they have; it's the taste and the understanding of what Adam was talking about with serving the song, what that means, what it entails, how you do it, how you can make something feel right quickly and efficiently, and it still work. And yeah, I get, people say it's formulaic and all that, and it's like, to a point it is, but at the same time, it's not easy, and not everybody can do it. And as far as myself, I listen to the melody first. I listen to the melody. I listen to the drums, and try to just envision myself sort of inside the kick drum. Start there, and kind of move with there. And then if I want to dance around it and it works for the song, I'll dance around it, and try to find a spot to maybe poke the melody out. And if not, I'll just write on a root. And as you were saying, for anybody that doesn't know, a root is we call it like the one. In Nashville, there's numbers in scales like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Root is 1. So in a C chord, C, E, G, it is C. So you could hang out on C. You can hang out on that 1 if you want to, or you can, you can do it. I mean, really, you can do whatever. There's no hard rule for anything anywhere, really, unless it's a law. That's how I look at it.
Something else, like just not to get off on a whole other conversation, but like when you're writing a bass line, if you're also the singer, like our man of the hour, our subject is today, people don't realize how insanely hard it is to sing and play bass at the same time. Anybody can strum a guitar and sing. It's so much easier, but like playing a bass and singing is like trying to play a very meticulous guitar solo while singing, because you're running a melody, and one of the biggest things that drew me to playing and listening to Geddy was the fact that he so often you hear his bass lines following what he's doing vocally. I always found that really cool, and that's a very kind of risky thing to do sometimes.
It's kind of a clever trick too, because sometimes if it's following what you're singing, you can make it a little easier to try to do it.
Yeah.
And then he adds in pedals, and there's just, I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, all the keys.
Gosh.
Yeah, that was always a thing that that drew me to Geddy, and like it's like listening to Rush's music, you get an idea of how that they all are proficient at their instruments, but once you realize that Geddy is the bassist and the singer, then it kind of makes you listen again and kind of think, wait, what's going on here? And the fact that the fact that he's got some of these vocal lines that have interplay with the bass line just is so cool to me, that it's like he's got this cool thing, and then he passes it to himself to do another cool thing, and then he passes it back, and it's just like, man, it's hard enough for me to just do one thing well, but to do two things exceptionally well is so impressive.
Yeah. Well, so then on that note, how did either of you get into the band Rush? Besides the awesomeness of Geddy, of course.
I'll jump in because I know mine will be shorter. It's another one I can remember pretty clearly. Riding around in the car, I think it was in Beckley, West Virginia, riding around in the car, and I heard Tom Sawyer come on. It was that big Moog Taurus, meow, that came on. The drums going, what the hell is this? Oh, because it was something like, I don't know, maybe like Cheap Sunglasses or something I played right before, which is awesome. I loved it. It's like, then all of a sudden here's this thing that's totally different. It's got this guy with this like crazy high voice. It kind of sounds wild and on the edge of breaking, but it never really seems to. And then lo and behold, in the middle of it, there's a little bass solo, The only other bass solo you ever hear on the radio would be like My Generation, Then there it is. There's a bass solo. I was like, man, this band is awesome. It was right around the time I was getting into bass, so it was. That was the first Rush song I learned. I remember that was Tom Sawyer. Because of that part, I was like, man, I got to get that under my hands. See what that's like.
That's awesome.
Well, for me, so I was at my uncle's house, and I had remembered hearing like Tom Sawyer on the radio and thinking that was the coolest thing I'd heard. Because hang on,
We lost him.
no, I had my brother was trying to call me, but I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever heard, but I wasn't like checking into it like deeply. But then I'm going through my uncle's CD collection, and I found Exit Stage Left, and I remember I was like, oh, that's that band with that song on the radio. Awesome. And I played Tom Sawyer and whatever, but then the more I kept playing it, I was like, man, that chick can sing. And but I ended up stealing all of those out of his collection. He never got them back. Got Exit Stage Left and Moving Pictures and 2112 from that. But no, I was just hooked. What really that live version of Redbird Shadow was what did it.
So then how did it feel getting the opportunity to work with the band, after all these years of consuming the music and just getting into it, getting the bass under your fingers, and what was that like to be told about that opportunity and to really have that chance to move forward on it? It
was insane, really, and I still have trouble feeling like it's real sometimes because, like, Jimmy and I come from a very very like small town part of the country here. Jimmy more than me. Like, and just to think that like, oh, hey, I've come from here and I'm listening to these guys growing up and then I get to work with them. Like, it's crazy. So, I'm very thankful for it, and their organization and just the guys themselves are just, they're 100% the sweetest possible. And, everything you would ever want in meeting your heroes. You know, they say like never meet your heroes kind of thing, but this is one case where it's that doesn't apply. Oh.
That's so cool.
Mhm.
I've only met Geddy, and that was with Adam, and can confirm, very nice man.
That is so cool.
Yeah, Steve, he told us a story about you receiving a bass from Geddy, but I don't know if he was just putting that on or if oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
that's one of 40 in the world.
Oh wow.
It came out around R40. I think they were going, like Fender was going to make it like a mass run thing, and they just decided to make 40 of them.
Wow.
Oh wow.
So anyone listening to the podcast, you better go watch the YouTube video because he just showed us that bass.
Wow, that's super cool. But I mean, I think that from all the stories that I've heard about working with the band and just seeing the way that the band is in interviews and all that stuff, it just seems like they're just more focused on doing what they love and doing it well. And they're not, it doesn't seem like they are concerned about what their image is and getting into the politics of music, that they just want to get into the music of it.
Yeah. And they, you know, even now, like on their own, like you talk to Alex, like he's never, obviously that guy never takes himself too seriously, but it's all about just, you don't really care what the critics are going to say. You don't care about what, you know, Ultimate Classic Rock is going to think about it or something like that. But you just do it and you're proud of it. And as long as you're proud of it, then they're happy. Like they're proud of it, they're happy.
Mm-hmm. It's reflected.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's authentic. That's what I appreciate about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not pretending to be anybody, that's for sure.
Yeah. Though you can definitely hear the Police a lot through the 80s. Like when you listen to Signals, you hear a lot of Police. I do anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely influences it, like some Yes and some
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of King Crimson once in a while, some this and that. Talking Heads.
Mm-hmm. So, what would be your, what are your favorite moment, or some of your favorite moments from their catalog? Bass moments, or just any other moments, but things that really stand out to you as examples of what keeps you coming back to them.
Jim, you want to go? You need a second.
As far as the band in general, what I always liked about them is that, and maybe as part of whatever juju kept them going for so long, but it's that whole thing where they could morph and change as the albums went on, but there was still that like silver thread that was always Rush. Like no matter how the sounds changed, and no matter, you know, as the very prog early days kind of turned into more radio friendly prog, turned into 80s synth prog, turned into 90s more hard rock stuff, like it still sounded like Rush. And I always thought that was really, really cool. As far as bass moments, man, one of these, I always really liked Where's My Thing. That's one of them I always thought was really, really cool. I mean, obviously it's YYZ and Red Barchetta, you know, the ones everybody loves. But I'm sure we'll talk about it. But I always loved that sound he was getting on those wall basses.
Oh yeah.
The
Quacky kind of
that
thing.
was different. It was still definitely him, but like way more mid-range, way more. It was just different, you know. Signals is my favorite sounding Rush record, I think. I mean, I love Counterparts and I love Roll the Bones. Signals is probably my favorite sounding, but Roll the Bones is probably my favorite bass tone album, which is sacrilege for some people.
I was about to say someone else that loves Roll the Bones, because I say that and people are like, "You like Roll the Bones?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, I love
amazing.
synths, man. I love synths and big old punchy bass.
Mm-hmm.
And the Roll the Bones, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's actually one of my favorite moments. Is I mean, that record is criminally underrated, I think. And it
sure.
gets a bad rap because there is the whole like rap and Roll the
It's
Bones,
perfect.
I mean, Jimmy and I and John, our buddies John Cavendish and Steve Barker, we covered "Ghost of a Chance." It's out on Steve's YouTube channel, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever been a part of. But that song in particular is just like one of the many, like, with that band. There's all these songs that kind of fly under the radar, deeper cuts like that, and when you hear them, you're like, "This is just one of the most insane things you've ever heard." And like, you know, when it comes to bass stuff in particular, like there's a ton, but I remember the first thing that like blew my mind was just listening through and then finally learning La Via Strangiato. And you know, that one's just so all over the map and so crazy. And, you know,
It's strange.
Definitely.
the Strange House. Yeah.
Not a regular house.
Nah. We would never expect a regular house from those guys. So before we wrap up, I also want to touch on something that I think gets neglected, but you talk about tone in the bass. What do you mean when you're talking about tone? Like, is it a setting that is done on an amp? Is it something that's done in the, in the way that it's played? Where does that tone come from?
I mean, I think the answer is yes. Also, the biggest thing, man, it's the old thing. It's there. Tone's in your hands. You know, the great players, Geddy Lee, Pino Palladino. I mean, John Entwistle. These countless just seminal bass players. Paul McCartney. Any of these guys you think of when you think bass players. They're gonna sound the way they're gonna sound no matter what they're playing. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get that thing, like Geddy Lee, for instance, is gonna sound a little different on a wall than he does on a jazz bass, than he does on a Rickenbacker, than he does on the rare precision moments. But it's like he still sounds like Geddy Lee. That tone is still in the flipper, and the same for take a Pino Palladino. He's gonna sound one way on a fretless Stingray. He's going to sound another way on a P bass with big old flat wound strings on it, but he's still Pino Palladino, and you can still hear those moments. I think mostly it's in your hands and in your taste, and then the other stuff comes after it. It's
I think you can buy, like, as a player, you can go out and buy every preamp or pedal or anything like that in the world, and you're going to get really close. I mean, you might not be able to tell the difference, but like when you hear that player play that song live or in the studio, you're like, oh yeah, that's him. Like that's like Jimmy mentioned. Paul McCartney. Like, I have never picked up a Hofner and been able to make it sound like anything worth anything.
Yeah.
They're hard. Yeah, it just sounds like a ukulele to me. Like, it's,
every every guitar player, bass player, whatever musician, Lord, people, everybody's always one box away, you know. Man, if I get this box, everything should be different. I'm going to sound good. You know, recording gear is definitely like that. Man, if I get this box, it's going to take me up through the top. You know, it's like, well, why don't you learn how to work on that one a little more? Don't.
It's the stuff.
I want the new thing. I want this.
That was a phase.
Yeah, I'm as guilty of that as anybody. Like, why don't you just really deep dive into that one? Yeah, but I bought it a year ago, and now I don't want it. No. And no matter what, it always comes back to the meat on your bones, you know. So it's just getting that right, and then everything else will fall in line. I think that's what tone is.
Totally. So I have a bass question. Is there a time that it's more appropriate, or is there ever a time that you find it appropriate to actually use a pick versus your fingers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally up to personal taste. I never understood the people that were like, I will not use a pick. I will not use plectrum because it means I am not a good player. It's like, I don't know. I mean, Chris Squire is pretty good.
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney's pretty good. There's a lot of the, you know, oh shoot, what's his name? The funk player plays with a pick.
Oh crap!
Yeah, I'll think about it. I'll think about it later, and I'll get real depressed. But there's vicious pick players, and there are times when I feel like it is appropriate. You want a little more attack on the front. You want a little bit of pizzazz, and if you think it's going to work, do it. You know, and I guess long answer, yeah. Long answer short, yeah. There's times I think it's absolutely appropriate, and maybe more appropriate than using your fingers. And if you don't want to use your fingers, you want to play with the pick, hey, go for it. I don't, you know, no judgment from me. I do it all the time.
Oh, and I had a bit of a stigma around it, like growing up or whatever. And then for the longest time, I never knew that Chris Squire used a pick. Just listening to it, and I was like, oh, well, dang. So then you go back and relearn roundabout with a pick. Like, this is actually harder. What the hell? So it's just like another tool in the box.
There's plenty of players on some pretty famous recordings too, where they do weird stuff, like they'd use a thumb pick and then use like their finger and kind of go like that. You know, a lot of those Huey Lewis and the News records, pretty much all of them. A lot of Jerry Reed records. The player played on that. He played that way. He'd have a thumb pick and then use his finger, and then sounds great to me. I don't see what the problem is.
Still serving the same purpose in the band.
Yeah. So before we go, what if you could only give one song to someone to listen of Rush to kind of illustrate Geddy's bass playing? What would that be? And then second question, what is another band or another bassist that you would encourage someone to listen to kind of go down that rabbit hole of what the bass can be, whether that's something similar to Geddy or something just completely different?
I'm probably going to steal Adam's answer, and I don't want to do that.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of mine.
I would probably go Red Barchetta for Rush. And as weird as this is, I don't know if it's like, if you want to see what bass can be, yeah, I mean, you could throw people into Primus, you know, Les Claypool. It's like, you know, the salamander of bass. It's like, it doesn't have to even really be bass. It could be a weird thing that, you know, a lot of people are gonna hate. Absolutely. But it's like, it can be this weird thing that is also the lead instrument that is very strange sounding. It doesn't even sound like a bass half the time. It sounds like
rolling garbage can.
Rolling garbage can.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd probably be somebody else that I'd throw them into. It's like, if you really want to get into this, you really want to see what it can be, just to alter your entire perspective. that'd be one. Otherwise, James Jamerson, man. Listen to Motown records.
Mm.
That's a huge one. And what a lot of people don't know is that James Jamerson is one of Geddy's favorite players. Now you know. But no, I think, in most cases I would pick Red Barchetta just because that is my favorite. And it's not only illustrating great bassline writing and performing, but also just overall musicianship. And it's my favorite song lyrically because it just paints this beautiful picture. But I think if you really want to show somebody like this guy knows how to serve a song well and look really cool while doing it, but he's also doing like 4 things at once in his subdivisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's still got his flashy moments in there, but he's playing keys, he's playing pedals, he's singing, and then there's no mistaking the tone of the Rick whenever it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And then other bands like James, you can't be a bass player and not listen to James Jamerson, or Bob Babbitt, or any of that
Duck
Motown
Dunn.
stuff. Duck Dunn.
Or over on the West Coast, Joe Osborne, Carol Kay.
Mm-hmm. Carol Kay isn't she like the most recorded bass player in the world?
It might be Chuck Rainey.
Okay. Yeah, she's up there.
Don't quote me. She's way up there.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
But I think the obvious other bands to check out if you're an aspiring bass player would be like Yes or something like that. But when Jimmy turned me on to Pino Palladino by playing, the song that's in every John Hughes movie ever made, Every Time You Go Away by Paul Young. One of my favorite bass lines of all time.
Amazing bass line. If you ever listen to that song and never listen to the bass line, do it. For like Wherever I Lay My Hat, any of those early Pino lines. He's just
Tear Your Playhouse Down.
Yeah, Tear Your Playhouse. Killing fretless, playing slide like double stop harmonic licks on a pop record. It's crazy.
Oh, man. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for geeking about the bass and about Rush. Definitely, if you're up for it, we'd love to have you back on the show anytime. But thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. And any last things that you want to plug? Anything that people should check out that you're doing, or any stuff like that?
Well, I'm on tour with the country artist Jake Owen. I play with him, and we're going to be in a lot of towns this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything stays all right and everybody stays healthy and everything's good. But we got a lot of stuff coming up, so you can check the website and the interwebs. Check out Jake Owen's dates. I will be there. Lots of other people I'll be going out with. Also, in the in-between times, lots of things going on. And I guess I'll thank you all. I don't get to talk about bass really hardly ever. I try not to be that guy.
So I was excited to see him on the list here. I was like, finally.
Yeah.
And I don't get to talk about the bass either because I'm usually just talking about work.
Yeah. Talking to your guitar player buddies like, hey, you want to talk about some bass?
Not really.
No. Yeah, I got a P bass. Pretty cool. Okay.
And then don't say also, do you want to talk about Rush? Because that also probably won't go well.
Oh yeah.
It's not good first date fodder. But
Geddy corns.
Geddy corns, all right. No, I encourage everybody to check out Alex's new project, Envy of None. I have the privilege of having that full record already, and it's so good. It's not what anybody's going to expect, I think, as you've probably heard from the first single, but it's if you're a fan of anything industrial, if you like bands like Massive Attack or Portishead, you're really going to like it. But yeah, otherwise, stay tuned for possible more Cinema Strangiato stuff in the future. We hope to keep doing that, and it's really nice to have something to bring the fans together worldwide for a night to celebrate. And oh yeah, and I did this in the past year, but if I have a documentary on Amazon, if you want to go check it out, it's about the band Evanescence. It's called
No way.
Awesome.
That'd be cool.
It's called Embracing the Bitter Truth. That came out with their new record last year. So
Oh, sweet.
check it out.
Definitely will. Thank you
Definitely have
so
to
much
check that
for all of that.
Yeah. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Yet again, a big thank you to Jimmy and Adam for coming on our show with us. Every time we talk to people who actually know what they're doing with their instruments, it just like expands my brain so much. And this time was definitely no different. Super cool that Jimmy being on tour and getting to bring that perspective of a working musician on tour, using it every single day. And then Adam with his insights into, the actual guys of Rush. that
He's in it.
yeah, and that bass of his,
Yes.
so sweet.
Yeah, definitely.
But man, if you want to learn more about what Adam has done with the band and see more of his work, check out his website, AJ Innovations, I believe it's ALJ Innovations. Missing that L. ALJinnovations.com.
But it will be we'll have a link.
Yeah,
so.
we'll have a link in the description. But yeah, definitely check out his stuff. Like he said, he worked on the Cinema Strangiato movies that they did. And like you mentioned, he's working on, or he has done a documentary of the band Evanescence. And yeah, I've checked out his website. It's some really cool stuff on there. So be sure to check him out. And then if any of you guys are country fans as well, Jimmy's touring with Jake Owen, and you can check him out.
He's actually coming to our area in
I think it's May.
Yeah. Might be super fun to go check that out. But yeah, check these guys out. They're awesome. And we are happy to have them in our Rush community online. We love the Rush community. Yeah.
And so then, like we said last episode, this upcoming Friday battle is going to be Where's My Thing and Malignant Narcissism. And Jimmy was the one that took the lead on that discussion and got some really cool things.
Oh yeah, we can't wait for you guys to hear what he brings to the table for that. It's really cool.
But until next time, here's looking at you.
What? Until next time. What?